Hey y'all, this is Holly Antle from Plum Crossroads Farm. I'm tired already. Okay, so these are my new garden beds in my front yard. You can see them all roped off. I gotta get onions planted. You can see I've done about half of this, but I want to talk to you about why I'm doing it this way instead of tilling it up, and what we're doing to prepare a new bed and get it into production quickly without tilling it, and why it's different. On this shovel, but instead of tilling up the ground and disturbing the root system, we're doing something called dethatching. So we take the shovel in at an angle like this, and we're just basically cutting these weeds, or the grass, right here at the surface. See, we pull this off, and we can set that aside. We're not pulling it out by the weeds, or sorry, by the roots. And there's a reason for that, actually. You can see that we're not pulling it out by the roots. Whew. We don't want to disturb the roots here. The roots are actually good. Now, I'm gonna have way more weeds in my bed this year, because all these roots are gonna grow back up through whatever I put over this. Not a big deal. I break them off by hand before they go to seed. Do that a year or two, you won't have as many weeds anymore. There's a reason we leave these roots intact. See, the roots are kind of like rebar in your concrete. They help, just like rebar helps to prevent your concrete from shearing and shifting, right? Your roots help to prevent erosion. So I wanted to show you this. I dug up one chunk for you. This is henbit. Let's see, I dug up the soil it was in. This is a relatively shallow rooted plant. Now I'm going to very carefully break away this soil. Look at what you see in this soil. Look, there's a dead bug in this soil. There's all sorts of goodies hidden inside this soil, right? But we're gonna break it up very carefully. See, I'm just breaking it up like this to get to this. This is what I want to show you, because this is important when we talk about global warming and climate change. Now, if you remember your carbon oxygen cycle, right? These little leaves take in carbon dioxide from the air, and they process it, and they send all the carbons down here using photosynthesis, and all that goes into these little root hairs, all these little roots, and it goes into this soil around it. All this soil, all this that I just broke off. Look, a lot of this is dead roots from other plants, right? And it goes in there, the carbon goes into the soil. That's what happens. And then the plant, the leaves, through transpiration, they produce oxygen for us. So, if global warming can be caused by too much carbon in the atmosphere, carbon monoxide and methane and stuff like that, a lot of carbon chemicals in the atmosphere, and we go dig up all of this carbon that's inside these roots, it's inside this soil that we're working with, we're basically throwing carbon back into the air, right? When we leave our roots intact, we're practicing something called carbon sequestration. We are hiding the extra carbon inside the soil instead of inside of our air. So it makes it safer, it helps to prevent global warming, and this is one of the ways that regenerative agriculture can actually help with climate change and with global warming, is through carbon sequestration. When we leave the roots intact and plant on top of them, the roots will continue to decay underground, providing more nutrients and more fodder for our plants and for our crops. But by leaving them intact, by leaving them in place, we're leaving that carbon where it is. When we turn the soil, we're putting all this back into the air again, back into the atmosphere. And that's what we try to avoid. That's why we're doing it like this. Way more labor intensive. It's about 3 days with a shovel as opposed to a half hour with a tiller. So it's way more labor intensive. It is a great workout though, and I don't have to pay for a gym. So speaking of, I'm gonna get back to it. All right, so we've got this bed dethatched. See? Before, after, easy. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to fork it. All right, so normally if I was doing in bed, I wouldn't even mess with this. The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm doing onions. They need a little bit more air and a little bit more room in their root zone. I'm using my handy dandy pitchfork here because I don't have a broad fork. I would love a broad fork. Seriously, if anyone wants to buy me a broad fork, message me. I will send you my address. Send me a broad fork. I need a broad fork. Anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to use this pitchfork and we're just basically going to dig these tines in here just a little bit, just like so, all around here, kind of like poking in a cake, and just kind of sway back and forth a little bit. See, we're not digging anything up. We're just opening up this root a little bit. Because remember, I left all these roots in here, right? So we're aerating this, getting some air into this root zone so that when I put the onions in here in a little bit, they will have a place to go. See, we're not digging anything up. That's what we're doing.